I would say that it's really important to just build a really good relationship with the owners, because a lot of well, at least in our case, a lot of the owners that we talk to are older and they're experiencing health issues, or their spouse is experiencing health issues, or, they're not really as tech savvy. Like, they're not able to, get on Facebook and, actually look us up to see if, we're real, or if this mailer is, a real thing, or if it's, because there are so many scams out there. So it's really important to just build that trust with that owner and say, hey, like, we are not trying to take advantage of, the situation. We're trying to make it a win-win for both of us. We are going to take care of the property just as well as you've done for the past.
Welcome to Real Estate Deal Closers with Anette, Talie, where we focus on the deals. Our guests are real estate closers who will share in detail the whole process from finding a deal to closing it, as well as strategies and tips to help you do the same. Here's your host, Anette, Talie.
Welcome to another episode of Deal Closers. I am your host, Anette, Talie, and my guest today is Taylor Carney. Welcome, Taylor.
Hello. Thanks, Anette, for having me on today. I'm really excited and I appreciate your time.
I am very excited to have another woman that is crushing it in real estate and to share with us your journey of how you started and where you are now. So let me tell you a little bit about Taylor. She's a multifamily investor in Ohio, where she partners with her husband, Kyle. In the 2 years that they have been investing in real estate, they acquired 18 doors. Of these 18 doors, they are managed by yourselves, right?
Yep.
And then you started a meetup in Columbus, Ohio. You are currently a stay-at-home mom with your 3-year-old daughter. In addition to real estate, Taylor is passionate about fitness and nutrition. She is a 79 harder and enjoys activities such as lifting, running, 5Ks, yoga, hiking, CrossFit, and cycling. Taylor is also dedicated to deepening her faith. With any free time she has, Taylor also enjoys cleaning, volunteering at a local church and humane society, spending time with family, and going on vacation. I love going on vacation too. We have something.
Who doesn't love vacation?
So Taylor, tell me, how did you get into real estate?
Well, it all started after my husband and I bought our first home. We had spent all this time watching the HGTV shows and the flipping shows and all that. And it was just really cool to see all the different things that you can do in a home and transform it and make it your own and beautiful. So we were getting all these ideas, and I wanted to do all these crazy things to our house. Well, we got the idea, well, why don't we, try to find a house to flip here where we live? And so we got in touch with a local real estate agent, and she took us to some properties, and we kept an eye on homes that were listed for sale on the market, but nothing ever really came up that was a good candidate for a flip. So we were just kind of going to let the idea go, because we just kind of want to do it for fun. We weren't really going to start a whole flipping business or anything. But then that same real estate broker reached back out to us at a later date and said, hey, you guys were interested in real estate. Have you ever thought about buy and holds and doing rental properties, being a landlord and all that sort of thing? And my husband and I were kind of unsure. We had never really thought about it, but we kind of wanted to know more. And she had an off-market deal. She knew a guy that was renovating a duplex that had no one in it. So he was just kind of fixing it up, and then he was going to put it on the market. But luckily, we went and looked at it, and we built a relationship with the owner, and we were able to purchase it at a good price. And that's kind of how it all started, was, the real estate broker just saying, hey, you reached out to me before, and I have an off-market deal if you're interested.
Wow, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
It kind of pays to share with people what you want to do, right? Because she kept you in mind. when she got this deal?
Yeah, it's really important to just be open with the brokers as well, and just say, this is kind of what I'm looking for. And so that way, your time's not being wasted looking at things that, don't match up to what you want. So she knew what we were looking for, and, she knew that we weren't experienced in the flipping world. And so she wasn't going to, send us any sort of home that was a whole entire gut job, but she saw a home that, was turnkey, ready to go for new tenants, and thought that that might be something that was more our style. And it ended up, being a really fun and great process, and learning everything that goes along with, getting good tenants in there. And we've just been going ever since.
That's awesome.
The Deal.
All right, so let's talk about the deal. What deal do you want to talk about today?
I want to talk about a deal that we did just over a year ago, and we still own it today as a rental. And it's a triplex here in Tiffin, where we live.
Triplex
and
yeah,
okay. It's a triplex.
That's awesome. What type of asset is it? Is it A, B, or C class?
B class. Yeah, it was built in the 1950s, and it's in a really, really great neighborhood. So we were really excited to get something that was in a B class, because normally we invest in C class and then try to do value add and get good tenants in there and do upgrades and take it from a C to a B.
Okay, perfect. All right, so how did you find this specific deal?
We used a direct mail campaign. That's one of our favorite ways to find deals and close on deals. And this was, no different than any other direct mail campaign that we normally do. And we just use our county's auditor site to find non-owner occupied apartments where the owners have at least owned them for 15 or so years.
I'm making notes. Awesome. All right. So you just go and to the site and then look for this information.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we look for owners that have owned it for a while. So, most likely the asset is paid off. Most likely they're at that age where they're ready to retire, or they're just tired of doing all of the upkeep themselves. And so that is how we're able to find owners that are pretty motivated.
And how many people do you target on each campaign? How many mailers do you send out?
I mean, it really just depends, because we've used different lists before. We've done pre-foreclosures, we've done small multifamily, we've done larger multifamily. We just really try to expand in our area. So we start, we live in Tiffin, so we have some rentals in Tiffin, and we'll slowly work our direct mail campaign out to surrounding counties and do the same thing. So it's not really about how many mailers we're sending out. It's more so about finding those owners that have owned the asset for at least 15 years, and they've got, we're not into single family, so smaller multifamily.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that meets that criteria is kind of what we aim for.
Awesome. And how often do you send your mailers?
Well, we were sending them out on a more regular basis, but with COVID, we kind of slowed down just because we didn't want to really risk going and looking at apartments during this time. And we also didn't want to disrespect anybody and feel as though we were kind of purchasing above, the health of not only the tenants, but the owners. So we're kind of at a standstill. We have mailers that we do want to send out, and we want to get back in touch with some people that we haven't sent mailers to in a while and do the second round, but we're just waiting until it's a more appropriate and safe time just for ourselves and, you know, the tenants and owners.
Yeah. And so when you send these mailers, you know, how many mailers does it take on average for the ones that responded and sold to you, for you to kind of convince them to sell to you? Because I get mailers all the time, and I'm just like, because I am a buy and hold investor, so I don't really even entertain it. But how many times do you have to mail these mailers before you got responses?
Actually, all of the deals that we have gotten through mailers were the first time that they've received them.
Oh, wow.
But we do want to get better, like, because we have a really good response rate with our mailers, regardless of it, you know, them saying no, or maybe in 5 years, or, oh, sure, like, let's find a time to meet. I am looking to sell. But we're trying to do better at going back and getting back in contact with the people that either said, you know, maybe in a few years or didn't respond at all. But we were lucky with being able to get several deals just based off of sending one mailer to that owner.
All right. And how do you keep track of these? Do you have like a CRM, you know, a client management, relationship management software, or do you just keep it simple with Excel? How do you manage all this information?
We keep it really simple. We use Excel, and we just color code it based on their response, and we keep track of the mailing address. We keep track of how many units it is, if it's, you know, a 2 to 5 unit, or if it's, you know, 4 to 19, or whatever the classification is on the auditor site. And we also keep track of when we sent them a mailer as well, so that way we can just go back, and we keep different tabs based on the county as well. Okay. So we can easily go back and look at it per county. We can look at, you know, the color codings, we can look at the dates, and it's really easy to keep track of it that way.
Awesome. And it's a good way, a very organized way to do it without having to spend a lot of money on a software. All right. Yes. So, all right. So what was the price? I guess it wasn't listed because you sent a mailer, but what was the initial price, and how did the negotiation go, and what was the end price?
Well, the owners started out wanting $50,000 for it. And for the area, that's a really good price, because homes in that area easily sell for $90,000 to $100,000. But when we went and met with the owners, what we didn't know was that it was only functioning as a duplex. It's a triplex, but they hadn't used the bottom unit in over 20 years, because these owners had owned it for well over 40 years. And, you know, they had a tenant move out, and at the time they just never felt the need or the desire to go in and rehab it. So they just had really good long-term tenants that were in the other 2 units. So they said, well, you know, I don't really feel like these tenants are going to be leaving anytime soon, and the cash flow is good. So we had to do some price negotiating, because we knew that there was going to have to be a major rehab in the bottom unit, because it hadn't been used in so long. Mm-hmm. So we just had met with the owners several times to build a good relationship with them and to build that trust and rapport, because they lived an hour and a half away. So they really weren't on the property that much. And so since they live an hour and a half away, you know, they don't know who we are. They don't know what other properties we own. And we ended up negotiating it down to $40,000.
Oh, wow. That's an amazing price for a triplex.
Yeah. Yeah. We were really, really excited about that one, because, you know, it's just a slam dunk in terms of price in the area. And we easily built up $30,000 to $35,000 just in equity with that.
Right. All right. And how did you fund it? Was it a cash purchase?
No, we just did financing through a local credit union, and we did the 25% down.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to get that credit union from you for Ohio. All right, cool. So 25% down is kind of like a conventional loan. It's a residential, a multifamily, small multifamily loan, not commercial actually. Cool. All right. Um, and so what's your exit strategy for this one?
Well, for right now, it's functioning as a hold. We're just using it as a rental because it cash flows extremely well considering the purchase price and the cost of, the rehab. But we've talked about that if we decide to sell it, we could easily get, $90,000 to $100,000 out of it because that third unit was completely rehabbed and everything's brand new in it. And the area it's already great, but it's up and coming. And even with COVID, we haven't seen any sort of downfall within our market. Houses are still, full price. There aren't that many foreclosures. People still are thriving here and paying, market value for homes. So if we ever want to take, that money, we could put it into something bigger. But for right now, we're just holding on to it.
Right, you can do a 1031.
Yes.
Yeah, and go into a larger property. All right.
Yeah.
So how much money did you put into the renovation of the bottom unit?
18,000.
18,000.
Yep.
And what do you think is the ARV of the building now that unit is renovated?
We would probably say anywhere from 90 to 100,000. And
Wow.
we're in it for 58,000 total between purchase price and rehab.
Wow, that's awesome. And how much do you get for rents?
So we get a total of $1,350 per month.
Wow. And did you have to raise the prices of the other units, or you just kept them at the same price?
The two tenants that were in there when we purchased it, their rent is the same because they're really great tenants. They take care of the property. We wanted them to stay. And one tenant has been there for over 4 years, and then the other tenant's been there for 12 or 17, or some extremely long time. And so the only unit that has rent where it should be is the bottom unit because everything's brand new, and obviously we didn't rent it out until we got it. But rent collection could probably be $100 more per month if we divided that up and did a $50 increase between the other two tenants.
Awesome. So it's like an amazing deal.
Yeah, it really was. That's why I picked this one to talk about, because it's just almost like kind of like that unicorn deal that people always talk about, once in a lifetime type of thing.
So what would you say was like the lesson learned on this deal that you can share with people?
I would say that it's really important to just build a really good relationship with the owners, because a lot of at least in our case, a lot of the owners that we talk to are older and they're experiencing health issues, or their spouse is experiencing health issues, or they're not really as tech savvy. Like they're not able to get on Facebook and actually look us up to see if we're real, or if this mailer is a real thing, or if it's because there are so many scams out there. So it's really important to just build that trust with that owner and say, hey, like, we are not trying to take advantage of the situation. We're trying to make it a win-win for both of us. We are going to take care of the property just as well as you've done for the past 40 years, and just be really transparent and say, we own these other properties and we do this and we love it and we take care of our tenants. We're not going to, put a tenant in the bottom unit that's going to disrupt or bother the other two tenants that you've built a relationship with. So I think that that's really important, and that's probably the biggest lesson learned, not only on this deal, but other deals as well.
Yes, and I love that. So you mentioned that you met the sellers a couple of times before they sold to you. So how do you, tell me about those meetings? Like how were these meetings? What type of questions do you ask, and what's your goal with each of these meetings? Because I was working on a seller financing deal. The lady that I was working on told me she wanted to sell, but like she would never want to meet with me. And, it was all about the numbers. Like, we could never get into an agreement. So I offered her to, get to meet her, but she didn't really want to do that. So how do you get these sellers to open up to you and share with you information?
Well, on the direct mail campaign, we provide our phone number. And the direct mail campaigns, I think, play a role in getting these deals and kind of building the trust, because they're very vague. They're not making any sort of like false promises like, oh, we'll give you top dollar for your home, or, we don't, try to make something up to make it more appealing. It's just very vague. And so if we do get responses and they do call, my husband just asks really basic questions about the condition of the property, how long they've owned it, how many, bedrooms each unit has, what the current rents are, and just kind of asks really basic questions and nothing personal, nothing about them. And then if they want to schedule a meeting, we're really happy to do that. So they get to meet both of us face to face. And you just talk about, what you do for work. They ask my husband, where he works, what I do for work, do we have kids? So, we're pretty open. We don't have really anything to hide when it comes to those types of basic questions. And, then they open up once you've opened up to them, and they talk about how long they've owned the property, and they remember, way back when. And, they always have stories to tell about problem tenants that have been in the units and having to kick them out, or so-and-so left a huge mess. And so you get to just know each other, and you also get to share some laughs. And, we can say, yeah, we've been there because we own other doors and we've been doing this for a few years. And then, once you get to know each other, you can set up another meeting and start discussing, where are you at with price? Where are we at with price? What do we want to do when we first get the property in terms of fixing things up? Or, you can get the price that you want, but maybe they need to fix something up first. You can propose the question of seller financing if there's a large gap between what we would want to offer and what they want. So it's just really like slow, but it's a very, very natural and organic conversation that just grows.
Awesome.
Expert tips.
All right, so now we go to the part of the show where we're going to talk about 3 expert tips that you're going to share with us. So the expert tips are working with your spouse. I love to get these tips.
Yeah, so I would say, first of all, you need to have fun. You need to remember why you started down this journey with your significant other in the first place. It's really easy to become stressed out, especially during these times. But obviously you and your significant other started this journey for one reason or another, whether that's to quit your W-2 or just get financial freedom, be able to go on more vacations with your kids. So when you get stressed out, or when you start arguing, or someone forgot to do something, just look back and remember that you were both in the same boat back then when you started, and you're still on the same team now. And that it's important to say, hey, we're doing this because, we're interested in it and it's fun and we can see ourselves doing it long term. So that'd be number one. Number two, I would say that it's really important for you and your spouse or significant other to have different identities. So, if you're working together, if you're parenting together, going on vacations together, sometimes you just need some space away from your spouse or significant other. And so it's really important to remain separate. If you need to schedule time away from each other, then I feel like that's really important because you got to have something else to talk about besides work, kids, and, what are we having for dinner?
Exactly.
And so going into kind of bouncing off that one would be number 3 would be to have your own hobbies, do things that the other one might not like to do. So like, for example, I'm a morning bird and my husband is a night owl. So we work out at different times of the day. I'm more productive in the morning. He's more productive at night in terms of, self-education, whether it's books or podcasts or meditation or whatever. So, he is more likely to stay up and have his me time and alone time at night after myself and our daughter go to bed. Whereas I'm the type of person who says, oh, I can't wait to get up early and have that me time. So that way, over dinner or whenever you have some downtime, you two have something to discuss that's different. My husband might listen to a podcast and I might listen to a different podcast, or we both might be reading different books, and we can just share and converse and have something different to talk about, or talk about, the different workouts that we're doing or the different regimens that we're trying. Like right now, my husband's doing his first fast, and I was kind of like, you can be the guinea pig on that. If it works for you, I might try it. But that's something different. We don't necessarily have to do every single thing together 24/7.
That's great advice. Absolutely. I happen to work with my husband on our W2, and we drive together, we work together, and then we come back together. And sometimes my husband wants to talk about work, and I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. Let's talk about it tomorrow.
Exactly.
Because I just don't want to be thinking about that. So that was awesome advice. Excuse me. So tell me, for people that don't know you yet, where can they find you online? Give me your social media stuff.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Taylor Carney, REI, for real estate investor. And then I'm also on Facebook. I'm more active on Facebook than Instagram right now, but you can just search my name, Taylor Carney, on Facebook, and feel free to send me a friend request. And I try to post relevant content, but I share a lot about fitness and my family and other things that I'm passionate about besides real estate. So try to keep it fresh.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And if you are enjoying this podcast and the YouTube channel, please subscribe and leave us a review, comment, share, and like. We love to create more of this content. And thank you so much. Thank you for being here and adding so much value to my audience.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I thought it was a great discussion, and I like the direction that you take your podcast. It's really, really different from anything else, and I think it's great.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
This was Real Estate Deal Closers with Anette Talie, brought to you by Talie Investments. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. Our goal is to provide amazing value on your real estate journey. Connect online at www.talieinvestments.com, where you can find this episode and more. Did you like this episode? Subscribe, like, and share.